The transportation and logistics industry has its own set of challenges. In the hot seat, industry thought leaders take on M&A and what's driving the future of transportation and logistics. Are you ready for the hot seat?
Welcome to In the Hot Seat with the Tenney Group. I'm Spencer Tenney. It's good to be with you. Have you ever wondered what goes on in the minds of these geniuses in these frontier labs of the largest AI innovators in the world? Well, I've got a little treat for you today. With me in the hot seat, I've got Peter Qian, CEO and co-founder of Ventus AI. Peter, welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you, Spencer. It's good to be here.
Well, I agree, sir. And before we heat things up a little bit, why don't you just take 30 seconds and tell us a little bit about what you're doing there at Ventus?
Sounds good. Yeah. So at Ventus, we are building basically a way for AI to interact with your existing software and system. The goal is there are a couple of different objectives for it. Like one is to first, there are a lot of things people do in between different legacy antiquated system in the industry. We hope to automate that, so free people up from the tedious work. Another goal is to provide a way for a lot of the technology provider to be able to interact with the system, right? And I guess one of the things like in our previous discussion we mentioned is that, we have super powerful AI, but if they don't have access to your system, they cannot interact with your system. There's no way for them to help you with your day-to-day work. So that's the goal. Yeah.
Well, I love that. And we're going to unpack that a little bit more here. So, but let's back up the story here. So, I want our audience to kind of appreciate some of your perspectives here. So you've got a really interesting background. AI with Facebook, with Amazon, robotics. There's a host of different things. Tell us about some of your most influential experiences that have kind of brought you to where you are in your career right now.
Yeah. So I started my career at Meta. At that time, as you pointed out, they were still called Facebook. And then there was, call it the innocent time of AI, because we just saw some promising or signs of life of what we call the modern day AI. And then I had my run at these, you just mentioned frontier lab or tech giants. And then what got me into logistics is actually with my previous company, we were working on warehouse robotics, right? And then the main turning point there was that as I started going from, call it the tech industry into more of the logistic industry, I saw really firsthand how tedious or how you can call it inefficient, like a traditional industry could be. Obviously, at that time, we were solving mostly kind of warehouse automation. And then at the end, Amazon acquired the company. But then I got to this point where I was thinking is that, okay, I could go back to a tech giant working on things in the ivory tower, or I could build something that can make good use of the latest and greatest of AI, this advanced technology for the broader industry. And that was what brought me to Ventus AI. Yeah.
I love that. And we have a mutual friend in Paul Tonsager, and I know you guys have done a podcast which we enjoy a little bit, Peter and Paul. And so, yep. So what's your connection to Paul, who's also a former hot seat guest?
Yes. So I actually met Paul literally on the hallway of a conference called Manifest.
Okay.
And then, at that time we were actually more in exploratory mode. Where I was thinking, like I mentioned, after Amazon acquired the previous company, I and a couple others were trying to start something new for the logistic industry. So we're exploring, and then I literally ran into Paul, and then when he was not with his martinis, and then we started talking. Right, so So he has a background really complement what I have, right? He's from the industry. He's spent decades in the industry. He sees all the problems in the industry, but he's not from the tech industry, so he doesn't know what's the latest, what's the possibility there. For me, I know a lot of hammers, but I don't know a lot of nails in the industry. So that just started to click. So we talk a lot. He's right now the advisor for Ventus as well, where we are leveraging his insights to find the right problem to solve for AI. I think that's probably the most important thing for us. Yeah.
And I think that's a great transition, Peter, because I think that, we see the same headlines. There's been a number of different reports that predict even in the next 4 to 5 years, 50% of entry-level positions will probably be eliminated or repurposed through AI. And so, for some people, that is music to their ears, that they're going to have the opportunity to really become more sophisticated. And for some folks, that's it's kind of paralyzing and very intimidating because of what type of re-engineering may be required to be competitive going into the future. So what are some words of encouragement? What, based on what you have your hands on, what should people be comforted by as it relates to AI, if they feel intimidated about incorporating this into their business?
That's a great question. First, you just brought up the elephant in the room. Will AI take over everyone's job, or especially my job, right? I think the answer is kind of, I would say yes and no, in the sense that I do think AI will eventually change everyone's job. But I don't think it would take away from it. And here's a very concrete example I could give. So AI right now is capable of writing code better than, I would say, 95% or even 99% of the programmers. But we still have programming as a job. We are still hiring programmers. Why is that, right? Why isn't AI taking over every programmer's job? Because the job has changed. Right now, instead of writing code line by line, you are learning how you can instruct an AI or a team of AI agents to finish the work for you. And if you don't do that, yes, the job is gone. So very few people are writing code line by line nowadays. So I think that will probably happen to other professions as well. That might be intimidating. But for whoever who can embrace this, you see the great benefit for it, right? For example, for us, we have such a lean team. We don't have a ton of people, but I think that I'll compare our productivity now versus, let's say, we probably have 10x of the productivity now compared with the time when if we don't have AI writing a lot of the code for us. I think that will happen to other industry, and people have to embrace it at some point. Yeah.
I read a report, and I don't the publication escapes me, but it was a national publication, and it basically said, as a follow up to that statistic of the 50% of entry level positions being removed, it also said that probably the same amount of new entry level positions would be created to address the new needs, or as far as in complement with what AI was taking away. And the good news for, college students perhaps would be like, hey, you're not going to have to, do these remedial functions over and over again. You'll probably get to do some interesting work at an entry level that could be more exciting. What's your take on that?
Exactly. That's actually what we're seeing right now. For example, in a lot of the cases where we are helping with people in freight and logistics with their day-to-day work, the good news is they didn't fire everyone of their. Honestly, they probably increased their staff rather than decrease them. But that doesn't mean that they're inefficient. That means they're way more efficient than before. Because now, instead of having people doing all this data entry, parsing email, responding to kind of routine email, looking up stuff on different portals, they can have people really going after their customer, serving the customer, getting new customers. And those are way more engaging, right, than just sitting in front of your computer,
right,
going to some portal, taking some information, filling in some information. And another part of your question, which is really fascinating, I actually don't have a clear answer, is that AI might be creating new jobs, right? For example, in our case, accuracy is really important, right? And you have people who are interacting with our technology and they know what to look and what they can give it to AI and what they should take over. And that you can call it, I know, maybe a new job, like instead of like operator, they are more of an AI supervisor. Or that's definitely some new title you can give there. And yeah, I think that's definitely something we've been seeing, and it will probably become a new trend in the industry, that training your employees to get ready for AI. Yeah.
So let's talk about Ventus a little bit. What are the most reoccurring problems that you see your team solving for when it relates to freight and logistics companies?
Yeah. So I think the main problem we are addressing is really the system people been using in this industry are antiquated and disconnected. And that creates a ton of tedious work where people are just spending in communication and then putting information into the system, getting information out of the system, right? You can take, for example, track and trace as example, right? People spending a ton of time just going to different sources, especially different portal, just trying to know where the shipment is at. That should be automated. And that's a very common use case we worked on. So instead of having human going to a different portal, taking the latest information, you can have AI agents. You can spin up an AI agent to do that for you. And you just need to focus again on the exception cases. So instead of going through 300 shipment every day, you focus on the 10 shipment that matters the most to your customer. So that's like a one example, like maybe the most recurring or common example that we worked on is this kind of tedious work, data entry, data gathering work. Yeah.
So how do you go about helping folks? Because I mean, obviously, there's what seems like limitless amounts of tedious work. Like, how do you isolate? This is where there's the most margin to be gained by automating this via AI. Like, what is the process that you work with, owners to identify, what is the biggest bang for the buck?
That's a great question. So we actually don't know when we first started with a lot of, I mean, now since we already have a growing group of customers, we know when we come in, we can point out these are the 4 or 5 processes you can automate. But at the beginning, we didn't know. And how we get to this point is actually, like, first we help people land something really quick. Like within a week, you have an AI agent running, doing something for you. And then it started to grow from there. Yeah, so we actually didn't know what's the most tedious work to automate. We usually land somewhere. We have somebody doing the operations. They start to use it. They feel like, wow, this is taking away, say, 2 hours every day, helping me getting back 2 hours. I have 10 other ideas I want to try these things on. And that's how we gradually get to the more and more tedious, the ones with higher and higher ROI. And that kind of goes back to the ideas, right? Like, you really have to put this technology into people's hand, and then you will see what's the highest ROI coming out of the actual application. Right?
So until they kind of have the chance to experience it, does it feel like they don't even know how bad the problem is until they kind of get a glimpse of something working efficiently? And they're like, oh my gosh, like this is where we need to apply this same technology somewhere else. Now that's interesting. I think that's really interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. I think people, before you show them something else, like a lot of people kind of stuck in the current way of doing it. So initially there's definitely some inertia of like, hey, you know what, Spencer, you could have done this differently and get back your time to serve your customer better. So that there's definitely some inertia that we have to overcome at the beginning. Yeah.
So how do you respond to owners that or operators, whoever else it is that's involved in a relationship with you, when they say like, I can't let go of this, this is too critical, I have to be associated with this function. But deep down, that's not true because you've seen, another owner, automate that in a different way. I'm asking for a friend here, not myself, Peter, by the way. And
That
so,
yeah. So
so how do you respond to that? How do you kind of overcome that, that false belief that I'm sure a lot of
Yeah.
owners have?
Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure if it's false belief or actually something I would agree with. I actually think people, like humans, like us, or your friend, should be in the driver's seat instead of AI for any processes we automate. But it's just the difference is just instead of doing every single tedious work, like every single entry themselves, they can now focus on the exception cases and be the supervisor. And then we design our system in a way that humans are always in the loop rather than kind of left behind or left outside of it. We even designed a way for people to build these processes on their own. So they are really in the driver's seat. And that kind of helped with a lot of the adoption, because really, I think adoption is probably the biggest problem right now, like in the space of having people try it out and adopt it. Because I think that's probably, I would think that's the biggest blocker. And we put in a lot of energy to make sure when people feel like they're in control, they're more willing to adopt it, right? Yeah.
That's a good take. So let me kind of expand out a little bit more. You hear folks like the the brands that you've been associated with, doing things with AI that we can't even comprehend at this point. Where do you think, where are we going to be, call it 2 or 3 years from now, in terms of what type of technology is going to be available to business owners? Like what is ahead for us that you see coming?
Yeah, so first I would have to say there's probably a pretty big gap between what people are doing in the frontier labs and what actual challenges people are facing in the industry. And that's the gap we're trying to bridge a little bit here. So first of all, when business owner in this industry, if you read the headlines, don't worry about being left behind because they're probably not working on the right problem, honestly. Yeah. However, I think in the long run, if you look at, you mentioned, let's say 2 year, 3 year, 5 years horizon, I'm pretty sure AI is going to make a significant impact in this industry. Yeah. And then what people need to keep an eye out for is really, I would say, focus on, like, just look around in your processes, trying to get your people, not just yourself, your people, to try out this technology bit by bit. You don't have to do a huge transformation,
right?
Because those are probably going to fail. And I just read the report, I believe, from MIT saying 95% of the AI pilots fail. One of the biggest reasons, I think, is because these are kind of top-down AI transformation without knowing the actual details of, say, the operation or the actual challenges, right? So go small, like try to have your people adopt some of it, some useful tools for AI, something. Just try something else. And then in the long run, I think people are always kind of overestimating the AI's impact in the short run, but underestimating the impact in the long run. So just start something small, and then over time you will catch up. And yeah.
I think what's interesting is that for a lot of folks, unless you're an XPO or some of these, major brands, there is no R&D department. I mean, they're not accustomed at all to investing in technology for the sake of learning and experimentation. I think this is like a really significant paradigm shift for folks, because if it's like, hey, I'll invest in this technology if there is a very clear ROI. And I think that there is that through a lot of technologies. But if I'm understanding you correctly, I think part of winning the future is going to require some aspect of experimentation. You have to get acquainted and comfortable with AI, irrespective of what it might bring to the bottom line. And getting the right solution perhaps could take a couple different iterations. What's your recommendation to people? Like,
and I actually think the future is probably in the hands of, call it, the operation side of people rather than the tech side of people or the IT side of people. I know this might be a bit controversial. I actually think to actually get the benefit of AI, you need your operations people, so people who are doing the actual work, to adopt it, to understand it, adopt it, and not building it as a top-down kind of IT transformation. Yeah. So that's what I'm seeing. And you mentioned like huge R&D departments, right? I actually have not seen a case, at least in this new wave of AI adoption, that any sizable R&D team within logistics industry is able to make significant impact on the business, like the top line business goals. There's probably a lot of marketing. You read about news and think about, okay, this company or that company seems to be doing something crazy, interesting with their R&D department. But in reality, I think it's more marketing than actual impact. Yeah.
So what's the difference? And I don't disagree with you on that. I think that, there is no R&D, development. There might be some, but it's pretty marginal. So what is separating companies that are dabbling, getting no results, versus companies that are actually getting concrete economic results from AI/automation right now?
Yeah, so we have the most luck when we can directly work with people who understand just the process, who are the process owner, like the COO, the operation leader, the VP, director of operation, or even some people who are like line managers who just have this process like this. We for example, recently we worked with a manager who managed a team responsible for quoting, like such a small team. But they're doing hundreds of quotes every day, where the process is basically you take an email, go to the portal, get some information, respond to the email. It's a very concrete case. And if you can help them just respond to more quotes, they win more business.
Yeah.
And just working with them, you can, within 2 weeks, we show significant impact. And then the adoption grows from there, right? But we actually have very little luck when we kind of work with people who are driving some top-down transformation, trying to see where to fit AI. So we have the most luck when we work with people who have the problems. We have the least luck when we work with people who have a hammer trying to find some nails. So
is it happen like where you're getting new business where it's like an operator that said, hey, I saw this podcast, or I saw Peter at an event and they've got a solution for us, and they're kind of championing, your technology through Ventus, and then they're kind of like selling it to C-level to get it done. Is that what's happening for you right now?
I would say that's probably our most successful case, because then you are the whole championing is backed by some concrete business wins, right? Rather than a kind of abstract idea of AI, how AI can change your business. Yeah. I think people are a little bit fatigued right now, even with
I would agree with that.
The idea about top-down AI transformation. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious, Peter, so how do you stay out in front of all of this? Like, who are some of your go-to thought leaders around tech, not just within, freight, but just the biggest picture? Who are the biggest thought leaders that you get inspiration from?
I did listen to some of your podcasts, so that was...
Oh, come on now.
but actually that's not I'm not trying to have the flat to be that's actually I'm actually listening to a lot of the podcasts from the industry to try to understand more about just what are the problems, what are people thinking about. So that to me is very important, because I understand the tech pretty well, but I need to understand the right problem to solve it, right? But then for people who want to know more about the tech, I would say if you want me to recommend, let's say thought leader, I think would be maybe Andre Karpathy. He's a co-founder for OpenAI. He was an angel investor in my previous company. So you can look up his YouTube channel. He really tried to break down some of these most complex topic into a way that people like you and me and everyone in the industry can digest. And those are for free, right? He just put up these videos and those are for free. You can you can basically
Yeah.
kind of view his YouTube video and you understand what the large language model is. He explained it better than just anybody I met. So he will be a good thought leader to follow if you want to understand.
No, I appreciate that. I think where our worlds intersect, obviously, is folks that are trying to, not just compete, but to create value. And so, I think for a lot of folks, they see this not just as an opportunity, but as an opportunity of a lifetime to create, life-changing business value within their companies. When you talk about like what you're, if you can, exponentially increase the output of a single individual using this type of, it's a major enhancement to overall business value, or potentially. So what advice would, if you put on your value creation hat, you've built companies, you've done all different kinds of things. What advice would you give to business owners who are looking at a potential exit or either recapitalization in the next 3 to 5 years? How should they be prioritizing AI and automation right now?
Exactly. Yeah, I would say probably focus on the problem would be the first thing. Like, don't get distracted by the headlines. Like I said, like in the short run, people are overestimating the value of it. A lot of the headlines are overblown. A lot of them are more marketing. But in the long run, if you look at longer horizon, if you're looking at the exit in a longer horizon, I do think trying to apply AI in the concrete problems you have, it may take longer than you thought. Maybe instead of transform your business in 3 months, it may take you a year to find the right problem to solve. But once you find it, it grows from there. It grows exponentially from there. Once you find the right problem, it kind of multiply on its own. Yeah.
What I've heard from some folks, and I just did a presentation on this, a seminar on acquisitions, and basically the thesis of my presentation was once you actually do your first acquisition, it becomes much less daunting. You actually get really good. It's a skill. I'm wondering, is that the same with, once you tackle a problem through AI and you kind of get a basic level of mastery over that, does it become easier to iterate that across other business functions within an organization?
Yeah, definitely think so. Yeah. Right now, for example, when I talk to a new customer, I know where we can find the most value. And then the same thing with the organization, right? Once you land your first AI use case, then you know, okay, this is how concretely AI will work. This is where it doesn't work. This is where it will work. So the adoption will go much faster from there. But it always starts with something rather small, but very concrete. Yeah.
All right, sir. Excellent stuff. I've got one last question for you, a little bit of a wild card for you. I'm wondering about young Peter at UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
And let's just say that you had the ability to go back and talk to yourself. What career advice would you give to young Peter coming out of UC Berkeley to set him up for success in the world of transportation, logistics, AI, and everything beyond that?
Wow, that's definitely. So that question is not on the list of interview questions. So that's a really good question. Now you really
hot seat, baby. Come on.
Thinking. You put me on the hot seat. Yeah,
that's right.
I would say, I actually think in the long run, this is the thing might seem kind of surprising to a lot of people, is that relationship matters a lot than I previously thought. I mean, obviously, logistics is such a relationship-based business, but same thing in other industry as well. If I think about how I got to this point, there's just a lot of experience working with highly talented people. Like in early in my career, I worked with a lot of the pioneers in the field, and all of just some of the words, sentences they said kind of gets stuck with you. And sometimes this introduce you to bigger opportunity. They help you out with some, let's say, fundraising or maybe advising. Like with Paul, for example, right? Like getting to know him helped my business a lot because he is a veteran in the industry. If I don't know him, if I don't have a good relationship with him, I don't even know what's the right problem to solve. So if I can go back in time, I actually will tell myself, make some good friends, right? in your industry and also in any industry you want to work with, make some good friends. Be good to people, make some good friends, and in the long run, it will help a lot. Yeah.
Well, that is a great note to end on. Make some good friends. Hey, listen, I hope we can be friends now, Peter. And
yeah, for sure. At least we're friends on LinkedIn, right? So
there we go. Hey, listen, thanks for sharing your expertise with us. That's going to do it for us in the hot seat. We will see you next time.